Welcome! Welcome to another wonderful edition of the NCS1 show. Today I have something amazing. First time for everything. But before I get into that, let's set the premise a little bit here. In the studio I have with me, once again, I am joined by Merlin and Cameron. Welcome, nerds.
Hey!
So today we are going to have what I call a nerd discussion.
Nerd discussion.
First time for everything, and this will not disappoint. So we want to make this kind of an at the movie segment, but the more I thought about it, I was like, no, it's going to be a nerd discussion. So obviously, let's set this off right now, and we're just going to say, we're going to be talking about the Warcraft movie. And I'm not even going to say warning minor spoilers. I'm not going to throw that electronic British sound bit from that chick in here. I am just going to straight up say there are going to be spoilers from the movie, from the game. There's going to be huge spoilers. Only listen to this if you don't care for spoilers or if you've seen the Warcraft movie. That's literally, or yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, pretty much the criteria for this. Or you just don't care. I mean, that's cool.
Why are you here? No, we appreciate you here. Never mind.
Yes, we do. Warcraft. We literally just got out of this movie, like, what, about how long ago? It's been like...
About almost 3.5 hours ago.
3.5 hours ago? Since the movie ended?
The movie ended. I was like, the movie started at 7:15.
Yeah, so we've been out about an hour right now. And so the whole way home, I was like, guys, I there's so much I want to say, but I can't say it right now. Not for fear of being persecuted by my fellow nerds for being an even bigger nerd, but for the fact that, like, I wanted to save everything for this discussion. And now that we're here, I'm drawing a complete blank.
I told you to write stuff down.
Thanks for listening, everyone. No, I'm totally kidding.
Now, to preface this before we start, I am not a Warcraft guy.
He's just a huge nerd.
I'm just a huge nerd, but I've never actually played Warcraft 1 through 3 or World. So I went to just go see this movie as just kind of a blind entrance. So
yeah, and Merlin, let's talk about your Warcraft history real quick.
You got me the game before, and I downloaded it, but never played it. And then, movie-wise, I fell asleep.
Got some veterans here, people.
Good job, Merlin.
Yep.
Yeah, great job. Well, that's all we'll be hearing from Merlin for the rest of the show. Let's shut off his mic and we'll call it a night.
Sweet.
So, okay, and now let's move on to me. So everyone's got that thing they claim to be passionate about that's nerdy.
Yep.
For everyone, it's the Avengers bandwagon. And the Avengers suck. And I'm not a fan of ScarJo. Just gonna throw this out there. I mean, we can't really go very often without ripping on ScarJo.
Please listen to my last show.
Yeah. And so I'm not a fan of the Avengers, but I love Warcraft. I grew up like with Warcraft. Like I played the original Warcraft 1 on DOS. I played Warcraft 2 on DOS. I played the Windows 95 and 98 remake that came out with the expansion Beyond the Dark Portal. I played Warcraft 3. Before I left on my LDS mission, I built a computer specially to play Warcraft 3 and Warcraft 3 expansion Frozen Throne.
Impressive.
Dead serious. Like that. I built it just for that purpose. Just for that. So I am hardcore World of Warcraft. I would used to read the manual for Warcraft 1 and 2. And I've read like...
That dates you.
Yeah, huh?
That dates you.
Shut up, nerds. And so I've read like a ton of the books. I haven't been following up with some of the recent books because there's an author named Richard Knack, and he's horrible, and all he does is write about the dragons and stuff like that. And it's not nearly as cool as the other Warcraft lore. Or Lorecraft. And like I really like Warcraft. It's got like a really good story. It's fallen off in recent years. It's gotten pretty bad ever since the I want to say the Cataclysm that happened. That was a big World of Warcraft event where the world got torn apart by a giant dragon.
Hooray!
See, World of Warcraft is amazing Except for dragons. The dragons ruin it. And the pandas ruin it too.
I was about to mention pandas.
The pandas ruined it as well.
Ooh, really
but
pandas.
and I played World of Warcraft. I can't say I've played since the beginning because I was on my LDS mission at the time. And you can't play video games while you're on your mission. Sad. And it came out when I was on my mission. But the big World of Warcraft claim to fame is you've been playing since the beginning. So I always lie and I say, I played the beta. And if someone says they played the beta, I'll log on to another character and claim I played the alpha. and I'll make up all this stuff. Oddly enough, I did meet someone who played the beta because I told him I was doing that, and he goes, "Oh, I actually played the beta." I was saying it just to tell me. He wasn't doing it to brag. It was pretty funny.
Nice.
So, I've been playing World of Warcraft since like about 2006, off and on, about the end of 2006.
Okay.
So I've been playing for a while. So this shows how nerdy I am. But like when I was in community college, when I was working as an RA, I couldn't go out at night a lot of times because I was on duty or something. And so what I had to do was, if I wanted social interaction, I had to invite people over to my home, which you can only do so often, or play video games with people. Oddly enough, a lot of people I was playing World of Warcraft with were actually in my my home singles ward, my church congregation. And we would all play together, and then we'd meet at church on a Sunday, calling each other by our WoW names. Like, it was cool. It was really cool. But I'm not going to lie, the glory days of World of Warcraft are long over.
They are over.
Which is sad, but it's the nature of the beast. It's okay.
Even with a new one coming out just around the corner.
Even with another expansion coming out there, 6 expansion Legion. I mean, it does get ridiculous. But the game itself is still kind of fun. And I still do play every now and then. It's kind of like people always say, you never really quit WoW. You just take breaks. You'll be back. And it sounds like a drug. Like all these heroin addicts are like, you're going to be back, man. You're going to buy a WoW token and you'll come back. So anyway, I think I've established my credibility of how big of a loser I am for talking about how much I like war and love Warcraft. Like, I really do. This is my guilty pleasure, and I'm pretty open about it, to be honest. I used to be ashamed. I'm like, no, I don't play WoW. And I'd see someone walking around with a Horde shirt, and I'd be like, man, that guy's so cool. He's everything I wish I could be. And he's like this fat, overweight nerd. And now I'm with a neck beard. And now I'm a semi-fat kind of, I'm pretty overweight nerd without a neck beard.
Fair enough.
But I'm growing one. And trying to lose weight. One or the other. So, the Warcraft movie. I went in with this thinking I was going to hate it.
Really?
I did. Because I heard, and once again, spoilers. So, I went in thinking I was going to hate it. I really did. And I was happy with it. There was a lot of things that were different, lore-wise, from the books and the video game and the movie and the old Warcraft manuals.
As to be expected with the film.
It was to be expected. But it was nice because like when I saw the Jungle Book, I was expecting certain things to happen.
Right.
Mm. And so I was expecting that with this. And I'm not going to lie, it didn't disappoint that much. It did a little bit here and there, but not that much. And so I walked away pretty happy. Like I said, I had a lot to talk about, but couldn't yet because I wanted to discuss it like on the air. Merlin fell asleep throughout it. He was not happy to go to this. He knew he was going to suck.
He enjoyed his nap.
Cameron looked like he was enjoying it quite a bit not knowing anything about Warcraft.
I go into every movie I go into with an open mind. I try to give the film the benefit of the doubt. Doesn't matter what it is. I try to get involved in what's going on. And I gotta admit, I was trying to keep pace with this film. It was a little difficult. It was very fast paced. I don't know. I was pretty sad. I would say I was satisfied walking out of it, but confused.
So the problem with the movie was there's a lot of things that if you haven't played any of the video games or know a lot of the lore, you're not going to know anything.
Then that's me.
And that was Cameron, and that was definitely Merlin. So I want to discuss a little bit about the differences between the movie and the actual lore of Warcraft that kind of, I don't know, just felt strange to me. So one thing I want to mention about the movie though, like an actual movie review, the movie it was very fast paced.
Yes.
Very, very fast paced. There was a lot of short scenes. Like some scenes would be like about 30 seconds to a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just like snap, click, and you go to the next thing. And some of the scenes, they would cut within the scenes. It was almost jumpy as some of the Inception cuts, which kind of upset me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I hate that style of editing.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work
Yeah, just
for
seemed
Warcraft.
Like in the middle of a conversation that two of the characters were having, the guy like trails off for a second, but he's about to continue his statement, and the camera just flips away.
Yeah.
Just kind of caught me off guard. Or they go to a new location and they speak for 30 seconds, and then they're off to another location.
Yeah, like
lots of traveling.
It just like it went like bounce, 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 so fast. And for me, I was like, I knew what was going on and everything that's happening, but I was still like, wow, that is really fast paced, even for me.
Though I gotta give them credit, they are trying to fit a very large story into 2-hour movie.
Yeah, and I felt
I gotta give them credit. They got the story in there that they were wanting to go for. I'm hoping for.
When I originally heard this was coming out, I heard they were going to try to keep it. They were like, yeah, it's going to be just like the books and stuff, and it was not.
Nah.
So I was a little mad about that. Normally, I would be like, okay, it's okay if it's different, but the fact that it was different when they said it was going to be the same, a little bit frustrating.
They didn't keep up with the expectations.
Yeah.
That they set for themselves.
And that kind of upset me. But overall, I still enjoyed it. So, one thing I did like about it, and Merlin and Cameron can either argue with this or agree.
Okay.
I thought the CGI was miles ahead of Lord of the Rings. Like, I felt like the CGI was actually really good. Except when you saw the orcs, that was really good. Yeah, but when you saw a human in with them, the human didn't mesh.
No.
Okay.
And normally, it's like the opposite.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, the other things don't mesh.
You can call out the CGI because you like see the human there, and you're like, oh, that's wrong. But I liked the CGI in the orcs.
Yeah,
They did a good job.
Phenomenal.
I liked it better.
No, this was definitely not a Michael Bay film where they just start throwing CGI just because they have CGI. This was definitely. I would agree that even though I was lost and confused, but as well as the graphics, so for the CGI, those orcs and the creatures that
Damn
they
orcs.
used and the landscaping was amazing.
I like the lighting and there's a lot of sweeping camera angles trying to establish where they're going to a new location, and the lighting as the camera's rotating around was really good. I really liked it. I know it's a completely computer generated environment, but they got the lighting spot on. It looked beautiful.
Yeah, and normally the thing about CGI that sucks really bad is the physics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in this case, it did better. I mean, there's literally, and it's from the trailer too, there's literally someone picks up a horse and just throws it.
No, seriously. And
which is way cool.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, though.
Well, and I think I would like to, I don't know if I haven't done my research on this, but I want to look at the fact that it's I think Blizzard has been we're going to make this movie was coming. This was something they were going to plan.
Apparently it's been 10 years.
Okay, see,
really?
Yeah, apparently.
Okay, so I thought that more credibility instead of being oh, let's make a fourth Transformers movie just because money and franchise, But I feel like since this was 10, if it's coming from 10 years, that this was purposely planned. It was scaled, and that's why probably the CGI turned out so well because this was coming, and they wanted to do the game respect. They wanted to do the fans.
Yeah, they wanted this for the fans.
Exactly.
And I felt they did justice.
I was just saying, it wasn't for oh, money scheme, let's do it.
Yeah.
It was
Cash grab.
Exactly. It's let's devote our fans who have played the game and actually make a decent movie to honor the game kind of thing.
Yeah, make Azeroth great again. So
build a wall.
So here was something. There was a lot of
out.
Keep the orcs out. Exactly. So here were some things that were in the movie. The problem with it is there's a lot of backstory that people don't know.
Yes.
The orcs. Okay, so let's start from the beginning, and this is where it's going to be you guys are kind of confused during the movie, but I'm going to explain some things and how they are.
Warcraft History 101.
Yeah, seriously, Warcraft History 101. So the world they come from is called Draenor.
Okay.
And so the portal from the two worlds
Mhm.
is opened by Gul'dan and Medivh, the Guardian.
Okay.
So that's open. The part about them using human souls or whatever, that was never in the books or anything like that. Like the blue people at the beginning, those are called Draenei.
Draenei.
Okay.
And so here's the other thing: Garona, the girl who you see later on,
Yes.
she's half Draenei, half Orc.
Okay,
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I was kind of thinking about that because like where they came from, they didn't have any
It
humans.
doesn't make sense, yeah. And so in the first one with Garona, or it's actually Warcraft 2. It talks about more about Garona. She in the Warcraft 2 manual, it tells the Orc history through her perspective.
Oh, okay.
And so Garona said, you know, it doesn't mention she's half Draenei. It just mentions her name is Garona half Orcan, and
Okay.
you assume she's half human
That's
and half
what
Orc by the name.
they mentioned half breed in the movie, and I'm like, okay, so she's a mix.
Yeah, and so then she was manipulated by Gul'dan's magic to appear more
more orc,
more human.
Oh, human.
More human than Draenei.
Oh,
Because Draenei actually have hooves
okay,
and a tail.
okay,
And so it's really interesting.
okay.
And so Gul'dan would like use her as like his slave, and she was like an assassin and stuff like that. It's really interesting and
That's
really
kinda cool.
sad. The whole actual lore is way cooler than the movie. And so they go through the portal. Well, now this brings to the question, why did Medivh, the Guardian, as they just kept stating in the movie, open the portal? So this backtracks a ways
From all I saw, he got corrupted by bad magic.
by fell magic.
That's all I know.
So
That's all the movie explained.
yeah, so let's get into this. So there's something called the Burning Legion. And the
Okay.
Burning Legion is the people that control the fell magic, and they're basically demons. And fell magic, I've heard people compare it to, in this movie, it's basically the equivalent of blood magic.
Right. You sacrifice something and you get power
yeah,
for it.
and
In this
what-
case, sacrifice life, you get magic.
Yeah, and while fell magic is just something that's just very, very powerful. And it's the type of magic that can penetrate through all armor.
Oh.
It's very powerful magic.
Mhm.
Owned by the Burning Legion.
So it's
And
not like the Force where there's a good and bad, and the bad's not as powerful as the good.
So there are several different levels of like good and bad or whatever, and like there's like literally a Warcraft Chronicle book that just came out a few months ago, and I looked at it and it had a chart and it explained everything, like different races, which stuff that wasn't even listed in this, like a holy light race called the Naru, something called the Void, and like the Naru is like all holy power and the light, the Void is like the old gods and the Void and like all this other crap. And then there's the Burning Legion, which is fell magic, and then there's arcane magic and fire, and there's literally so much stuff, and it's ridiculous. I don't want to get into all that. I'm trying to give like the easiest breakdown. So
You're no good.
Sargeras, he is the leader of the Burning Legion,
Okay.
and so he comes to Azeroth, and he tried to come several times. He ends up the most recent time getting killed. He is defeated by a woman. And as he dies or disappears or whatever, she defeated his avatar is what it's called in the novels and the books. And so the woman eventually gives birth to Medivh. And then eventually around Medivh's 16th birthday, he's actually best friends with Anduin Lothar, who is the king. I mean, not the king, the high general.
Okay.
The general. And then King Lane as well. They were all best friends growing up. And on his 16th birthday, he has like this huge psychic attack, falls asleep, and then he's in a coma for several years, and then wakes up.
Brutal.
And so he's possessed by Sargeras' avatar
Oh.
and stuff. And so here's the other thing: the old woman,
New name of the movie.
who was in the movie. Her name's Anduin, or something like that.
I don't remember.
She's in the movie, but she has a different name, and she's inside that black box.
Okay.
And so that's Medivh's mother.
Oh.
That's and so
That
she
adds
was
up a little bit
she
more.
was the previous guardian, and there was always a guardian of Trisfall or whatever, and it wasn't always hereditary. But she eventually was like, I think my son's the only one who can handle this kind of thing, and so anyway, she ends up Medivh's father. His name is Neelis Aran. He was just like a high mage, and she just slept with him for like one night, and then left him. because she just wanted like a good suitor for Medivh, the Guardian. You know, that type of thing.
Okay.
There's so much, and it's
I
like
don't even remember all these names, man.
oh, they pop up a lot in the game. And,
Okay.
And the Karazhan, the castle that the Guardian Medivh is in, it's actually a raid.
Oh, okay.
And so I've gone through it a lot of times.
All right, that makes sense.
And so the Shade of Needless Aran, like the ghost, is a boss.
Oh.
In one corridor. He's like in a library, and so you fight his ghost.
Okay.
It's kind of cool. And so anyway, Medivh's possessed by Sargeras. And so then that brings us to the portal opening.
Okay.
So in the books, the portal's just open. Straight up.
Oh. Doesn't
mess around. Straight up. Doesn't need more souls or whatever to keep powering. And the Horde just keeps, coming through.
That makes sense.
Kind of thing. And then there were no dwarves in the first one. There were no guns. There were no elves. It was just the humans versus the orcs. In the first one. Hence why it was called Orcs and Humans.
Yeah.
And one thing that I wanted to see, there's a lot of things I wanted to see, and most of them happened. I'm not going to lie, the first Warcraft is a tragedy. The humans lose. The humans lose, the king gets killed, everyone, it's basically like no one wins.
Hooray!
Nobody wins in the first Warcraft. I mean, the Orcs kind of do, but like, do they really, kind of thing?
The Orcs don't get wiped out.
They don't get wiped out, no.
So, hey, they win.
They
kind of, technically?
Kind of. Well, then, the thing is, they destroy that whole kingdom. And then they move north.
Okay.
And that's when the Alliance, or the humans, they form the Alliance, which is like all the other races.
No.
And then they fight back against the Orcs, which have grabbed some trolls, goblins, and a couple other things.
Blood elves?
No blood. Well, the blood elves are on the human side.
Oh.
Eventually, they do switch over to the Horde, but that's for another time. And they're not called blood elves, then they're just called high elves.
Okay, I only know that from like the week-long trial I tried.
I know
Warcraft.
There's so much. So some things I wanted to see that I did see that were cool. So remember that Black Hand guy, the chieftain?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in Warcraft 1, Orgrim Doomhammer, who was, you remember the main guy, Durotan?
Yes.
It's like his best friend, Orgrim Doomhammer. Orgrim ends up seizing control of the Horde.
Oh.
He kills Blackhand, because Blackhand's just like Gul'dan's puppet.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Gul'dan gets incapacitated, which I'll talk about in a second. And while Gul'dan is incapacitated, Orgrim runs in, like this huge group of people, kills Blackhand, and like there's a drawing in the Warcraft 2 manual, literally a picture of Orgrim Doomhammer holding up his Doomhammer in one hand and Blackhand's head in the other.
Oh, dang.
It is hardcore. The movie didn't do that. And
the movie did make the Orcs very brutal.
Very brutal. There was so much brutality.
I felt the brutality in this entire species just throughout the movie. Just, they're strong, proud people. And
yeah.
I got that
and so,
clearly.
So I didn't see... To see Lothar kill Blackhand, it was kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of let me down a little bit. Gul'dan isn't mentioned in the first Warcraft.
Oh.
He's mentioned in Warcraft 2, from Garona's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So he was brought in later. But, so what happens is, eventually, Medivh is taken out by Khadgar, and I think Lothar, but Khadgar and Garona, they're the ones that take him out. And I think Lothar's involved as well, but I can't remember for sure.
Khadgar's the mage?
Khadgar is the mage. I should probably clarify that. Khadgar is the mage. And there's a lot more I can talk about Khadgar in a second. They are the ones who kill Medivh. And it's interesting, and this is from the book The Last Guardian. It was like one of the first Warcraft novels that was written. And so...
First novel, Last Guardian.
Yeah, I know. It's so sad. And the book is actually really sad.
Okay.
The whole thing. It talks about how Medivh didn't really have a childhood and all this other stuff. But, so, when Khadgar takes him out, Medivh is kind of possessed, but not really. I mean, he is, but he's trying to be good. But he's still possessed by Sargeras. And so Khadgar says to him before he kills him, he goes, I think you surrounded yourself by people who would take you out when the time comes. And it's so cool. And Khadgar totally wipes him out. And then, at the end of The Last Guardian, Medivh is, resurrected. Because his mother shows up and uses the last of her power to resurrect her son, free of the corruption.
Aw,
and
thanks, Mom.
And then Warcraft, and then around that time, Medivh travels the world, and that's where Warcraft 3 picks up.
Okay.
Because he appears in Warcraft 3, and he doesn't mention that he's Medivh the Last Guardian until towards the end, but he's trying to get everyone to unite to fight the Burning Legion because they're coming, but no one wants to, only a few people listen.
Okay.
And that's super cool in itself.
So, here's a question. Why did Sargeras inhabit Medivh in the first place? Why did he do that, and why did he want to bring the Horde into Azeroth?
So, the reason the Horde being brought into Azeroth, there's a couple of reasons. Azeroth is a very particular world.
Okay.
And this gets so lore heavy. But basically there was a group of Titans, which were like the original creators and shapers of the cosmos, or they would
the universe World of Warcraft takes place.
Yeah, kind of. Members of the Pantheon. And so they were there to fight something called the Void.
Okay.
And the Void is just endless, and it's really hard to explain what the Void is. But Sargeras was originally part of the Pantheon.
Okay.
It was originally a Titan. And originally, with the before there was the Void, there was demons.
Demons?
And so the demons were in tons of other worlds, and the Titans, the Pantheon, imprisoned them.
Hooray!
All into jails. Well, Sargeras was their most noble warrior.
Okay.
And he went to go and to travel the universe, and as he traveled the universe and fought the demons, it just wore on him more and more, and he knew that there was the Void, and he couldn't take on the Void himself. And so, eventually he just snapped. Just snapped completely, goes and he frees all these demons, forms his own group called the Burning Legion.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just goes full crazy. Turns into a totally dark Titan. Totally evil. It's awesome.
Is that the form that
Similar.
He was taking in the movie?
Similar. Sargeras, I've seen many pictures of him.
Okay.
In
the movie, the Guardian guy kind of turns into a monster demon.
Yeah, similar, but
they never
not...
explained it. I just figured he went bad.
Yeah. and so, anyway, Azeroth, that world apparently has a sleeping Titan in it. It hasn't been woken up inside of it. That's what the Chronicle book was telling me.
Oh.
And so the Burning Legion has been trying to get to Azeroth for a long time. 10,000 years before the events of World of Warcraft, there was a huge event called War of the Ancients. And so magic in itself in Warcraft is very dangerous.
Okay.
Because it takes many forms, which can also... Magic is also addictive as well.
That makes sense.
And so there were these race called the Night Elves, and they had this very high-class society, very, very fancy, and they were using their magic, and they ended up opening a small portal to the Burning Legion, and were communicating with them, and then the Legion was coming and destroying basically all the lower classes of elves and all the other races. And what ended up happening was there's so much that happened. There was a thing that happened called the Sundering when they closed the portal, but the source of magic that they were using was this well called the Well of Eternity. And
the Mountain of Youth.
And kind of, yeah. And so this is so nerdy. The fact that I know all this, is
he did preface his qualifications for this in the very beginning of this.
Oh my gosh!
You brought this upon yourself for listening.
Yeah, and everyone's clicks the
discretion is advised.
And the unsubscribe button was just clicked. And
if you've ever had a nerd rant like this, like, comment, and subscribe.
Oh gosh, stop that. So, anyway, it shattered the world Like it was like the world was one continent,
Mhm.
and then shattered into several. At that point,
Well, that sucks.
yeah, and I mean, and there was so much that went on, but the Demon Gate was
More
closed.
beachfront property.
But there was but there was all sorts of other side effects from it. But moving on, so they tried to invade before, haven't been successful.
Okay.
And then about 10,000 years later, the Avatar, Anduin, that whole thing with the possession. So that's why Medivh possessed, or Sargeras possessed Medivh, the Guardian. So that's why that happened.
Okay.
And then another side thing. So Garona, and this is also from the book The Last Guardian. Garona, she actually, the half-breed, she actually has a child with Medivh. They were actually lovers.
Snap.
And so they end up having a child who is half human, quarter Draenei, quarter orc, named Menden. And
That's got to make genealogists go nuts.
yeah, it's really, it is crazy. Because like you see his Draenei uncle later on, or great uncle. There's so much stuff. It's ridiculous.
What does he look like?
He actually looks really cool. He looks like mostly orc, and he has bright glowing blue eyes, dark black hair.
Okay.
And mostly an orc, very human type features, similar to Garona.
Okay, I can get down with that.
It's pretty cool. I think it is. And so, they were lovers, and like that's not exactly fully explained in The Last Guardian, but it's implied. Garona is actually hanging out in that tower for a long time, and she knew Khadgar. They know each other.
The
The mage.
Okay.
So Khadgar, here's where his story comes in. So Khadgar is like a huge piece of Warcraft lore. Huge. And he,
I thought you were about to say huge piece of...
No, he's awesome. He's like one of my favorite characters. The interesting thing about Khadgar is every time Blizzard needs to revamp the franchise,
Hooray!
they bring in Khadgar.
Oh boy.
Like seriously, like they're like, crap, things aren't going well. We got to bring in Khadgar, and that's kind of how it is.
He's the Deus Ex Machina.
He really is. I know it sounds bad, but he's extremely powerful.
Okay.
So Khadgar, he was Medivh's apprentice. He was sent there by the Kirin Tor, that mage organization. Mm-hmm. He was sent there to study under him, and then he started noticing the corruption and stuff. He never left like he did in the movie.
Okay.
And then went elsewhere.
That makes for a more exciting and engaging character.
Yeah, it did kind of, but
it invokes part of the like traditional story characters, like the rogue. He's running away from his responsibility.
Yeah,
and then he realizes his faults and he goes back.
And he wasn't supposed to be the guardian. He was just supposed to be the apprentice. And from what I remember, I think the Kirin Tor wanted him to spy on Medivh a ton.
Really?
And from what I remember, I could be wrong on that. And so, Last Guardian, really, really great book. It's really sad because he does kill Moros, his servant.
That sucks.
And Moros comes back to life as an undead, and he becomes a boss in Karazhan later on in the raid. And he becomes, later on, after he's freed of that corruption, he becomes a quest giver.
Sweet.
And he's a cool dude. I mean, it's just really... Moros got the short end of the stick.
Sounds like it.
Cause and the thing about him was he was really slow and old, and that was kind of different in the movie. But that aside, Khadgar, some things about him which are really cool that were kind of expressed in the movie, but not really. Khadgar's pretty chill for the most part. In the movie, he's more comical, probably because he's younger.
Yeah, he's young, kind of
and
ambitious, but clumsy character that goes along, and he's kind of just there.
When in the books, around this time, he's about 14 to 16.
Okay.
He is really young. But by the time this is all over, remember at the very end where he's fighting that golem and Medivh's magic was hitting him?
Yes.
That ages him profusely, and he turns into like an elderly man.
I'm still young
like
and
not
beautiful.
like, and he right now he in WoW. I'm actually gonna pull up a picture for Cameron.
Hooray!
Like right now, what he looks like is he's old, but here's what he looks like now, Cameron.
Okay.
He's old, but he's got like a fully shaven face.
Okay.
And yeah.
He's got great hair.
But here's the interesting thing in Warcraft 2, with the Dark Portal, he is the one who closes the Dark Portal.
Oh.
And so that's extremely cool. And then in the Warcraft 2 expansion, the portal gets reopened by the orcs on the other side. And he ends up traveling through the portal.
To the orc world?
To the orc world. He ends up having the skull of Gul'dan.
Oh.
And there's so much going on with this place. And then like a jeweled scepter of Sargeras.
Oh,
and then like there's,
boy.
I know. And he uses those and then like one other tome book. And he uses that to close the portal and he's stuck on the other side.
No.
And that's how it was supposed to be. I think he closed it. Yeah, he does close the portals, but at the same time, all the other portals are opening.
Other portals?
This is where it gets crazy.
Uh-oh.
The original orc chieftain, or not like war chief or whatever, one of the clan leaders who didn't go through, opened portals to another world, trying to escape. And then as the world is crumbling around them from some other stuff, he runs through and he goes right back into the Burning Legion's hands. And then he ends up becoming the Lich King later on.
This was who again?
His name is Ner'zhul.
Ner'zhul. He's one of the orc chieftains.
One of the orc chieftains.
Okay.
And this is where it gets like super, super nerdy.
I've heard of Lich King.
Yeah. The Lich King is half Ner'zhul and Arthas Mendel. Or Mytho. This gets too complicated. Let's stay back on the subject of... let's get back on the subject of the movie. Of the movie. So
Warcraft the movie.
Warcraft the movie. So I was kind of bummed that I did not see Khadgar age. I really wanted to kind of see that because like his old age is something that kind of defines him.
Okay.
A little bit. And so I was a little bit bummed about that. So other things I was happy to see that I knew were coming. I knew the king was going to get killed by Garona.
Okay.
Because that happens in the books, and it doesn't explain why. But I mean, for a long time, it didn't explain why she killed the king. But in the books, it said it was a whisper from the old gods who originally inhabited the earth of Azeroth, and the old gods are connected to the void.
Oh.
And so that's kind of, and like they whispered her, like it drove her insane, and that's why she killed the king.
Oh.
So I didn't think they were going to touch on that. I liked this way better because they explained it a little bit more.
They're surrounded by orcs on all sides. The king's like, and there's the Black Hand guys run up to kill him, and he's like, Garona, you must kill me.
Yeah.
It'll give you honor, and you'll have the statue, and you'll have people power.
I liked that better.
And it made sense to me.
I did. I wanted, this sounds really bad, I want King Lane to die. I've never liked him in any of the games. I just kind of want him to die.
Though, to be fair, kind of on the shortcomings of this movie, they didn't make him likable.
No, and he's not.
There weren't
not likable.
There weren't many characters in this movie that were likable.
Which brings me to Durotan, the main orc.
Okay.
So Durotan was the main focus of the movie, and that was why I was not happy to see this movie. I knew it was going to be like Durotan focused.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they did a good job with it, but I don't think Durotan was like the best focal point. And Lothar is my focal point.
Okay.
If I had to go to anyone, because he was like literally one of the few heroes in Warcraft 1 that you got to play as.
Oh, that's cool.
And see, he's in a unit. What happens is he's in a cave, and one of the head priests receives a vision because he went looking for something. I don't remember what. It's similar to the Crusades. And you go in and you heal up Lothar, and you bring Lothar out of the cave.
Hooray!
And so he's in Warcraft 2 as well. And in Warcraft 2 he died. He's actually killed by Orgrim Doomhammer.
Aww.
At that very location, that location they all met at.
Yes.
For that rendezvous or whatever. That's where
the black stone touches the sky.
That's known as the Burning Steps. And they actually built a fortress there called Blackrock Spire.
Okay.
And that is where Anduin Lothar dies. He gets killed by Orgrim Doomhammer. But another hero, a paladin, named Durotan, I think is his name. I can't pronounce his name. He's a paladin, and what he does, and this is epic as crap, he picks up Anduin's broken sword, and he defeats Doomhammer.
Cool.
And puts him in prison, like in chains or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty epic. But so that was I didn't want to see it Durotan focused, but it was. Now let's explain who Durotan was. It was obvious he was like the leader of the Frostwolf clan. Mm-hmm. Fairly obvious. Durotan, he, before they crossed the portal, everyone drank from this blood of this demon, which was basically fell blood. And that's how they became green.
Okay.
And Durotan refused, or he did not. His clan did not participate. Orgrim Doomhammer somehow participates because his skin turns green. That's how they turn from brown to green.
Right.
Okay.
Which they did not explain in the movie. Everyone just like 90% of the orcs are green, and then like 10% are like fleshy tones.
Oh! Now I remember what happened. So at the end of, it was the end of one of the books. It's called Rise of the Horde. It's not that when their world's dying, as well as them drinking the green stuff. Here's how Orgrim Doomhammer's skin turns green, as well as Durotan's. When their world starts dying, their skin starts peeling off from brown and turns green.
That's gross.
It's really gross.
It's super gross.
It is. And it like chips away, like piece by piece. It's really sad. And so, yeah, it was interesting. So, it was cool in this movie to see a ton of WoW characters in there that were orcs, that were like orc chieftains that I knew. Like there was characters like Grom Hellscream, Korgoth Bladefist, and there's so many, and they were like side characters, and they were there, and it was really cool because one of them, Grom Hellscream, he had like this huge giant axe. Mm-hmm. An axe is known as Gorehowl, and it's a very vicious weapon. Mm-hmm. And I was expecting when you saw Lothar's son die, that huge orc with the axe that's like next to him.
Oh yeah.
That's Grom Hellscream, and he is psycho. He is absolutely nuts. He is crazy, like always the first to run into battle. And he's bonkers. And so Grom, I was expecting him to see him wipe out the kid, but instead Blackhand did it.
I almost thought for a moment they were gonna like the fact that Blackhand saw Logar? What's the name?
Lothar
run up to the electric shield and like try to save his son. I thought he was gonna spare him just because he like saw the honor that his dad showed for his son. Try to give a little bit of redeeming character, and then he just decides to I'm gonna stab him through the stomach.
See, that's one thing I did like.
It made him a brutal character.
Yeah,
There's like no redemption for him at that point.
Blackhand is always a douche.
Okay.
Which is perfect. He was a little bit nicer to Durotan in the movie, and that brings me back to Durotan. I wasn't too keen on how they did make him a main character. It worked, but it wasn't what I wanted to see.
Okay.
I wanted to see Lothar be the main focus. But one thing about Durotan, the way he died, is not battling Gul'dan. Mm-hmm. It's actually Gul'dan sends assassins to kill him and his wife, and they both die. And Thrall and the little baby, Goel as they call him, he ends up becoming Thrall, the war chief of the Horde in Warcraft 3.
Oh.
He ends up getting picked up by a very rich noble named I can't remember his first name. His last name is Blackmore. And he ends up raising him in the castle to be a slave, and to be
he's raising the baby to be
to be a fighter. And his goal was to have this orc become the leader of all the orcs, and just like take over.
The guy the person that picked up the baby, was he human or was he orc?
That was human.
Okay.
It was one of his workers. And so what happens is that baby, after Warcraft 2, all the orcs are placed into internment camps. and yeah, and they're all just stuck, and they're just pathetic, and they're just all in these camps now, like these prison camps. And so Thrall goes and he frees them,
Okay.
like everyone. And he, one thing that the orcs lost was how to communicate with the elements. Like they had their own shamanistic magic.
Oh.
And so Gul'dan used to be a shaman, but he forsake that in favor of fell magic.
Okay. I could kind of see that with his character design. He had skulls on him, and he looked. I thought he was a shaman just from looking at him.
Yeah.
Outside perspective.
Originally, he is a shaman. And then, anyway, Thrall ends up freeing all these orcs and then rebuilds the Horde from scratch, basically.
Cool.
And he ends up meeting Orgrim Doomhammer, which is really cool. And Orgrim ends up dying before the events of Warcraft 3. And he ends up getting Orgrim Doomhammer's black armor and his chief, which is his weapon, which is called the Doomhammer.
Doomhammer.
And it is epic. And so anyway,
so they rebuilt the Horde?
They rebuilt the Horde. So,
and you know how they did that, huh? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, pretty much. And so the emphasis that they kept putting on Durotan and like the baby Moses thing, where they're like,
Yeah, I saw a very Moses-esque theme where the mom sets the baby in a basket in a river and floats him down.
Yeah.
And then she proceeds to bite the guy's jugular.
So when this happened,
That would have made Moses a lot more entertaining.
Yeah, when this happened, it was like in a snow area.
Okay.
It was way much further north when they were killed by the assassins. And so, yeah, so I wasn't in favor of that. I see why they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Gul'dan. The fight scene between him and Durotan.
Okay.
That was cool.
That was pretty cool.
I liked, what I really, really liked was when Gul'dan took off like his cloak, and you could see like the bones that were sticking out.
Mm-hmm.
Like those were his bones.
Yeah.
And the fell magic corrupted him that bad. I'd never really seen it like that before. So that was pretty epic to me. Pretty messed up too.
It was pretty messed up, but I kind of... Oh boy. Should I go into my realm of geekiness?
Sure, nerd.
Okay. So it reminded me a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender. In the episode where Aang goes to Omashu, and he challenges the Earth King there, or the king there.
Oh,
Bumi.
yeah, I remember this.
And Bumi's like this hunched over little guy, and he's like, I challenge you! He's like, wrong choice! And he like stands up and straightens his back, and he's like, takes off his cloak, and he's this ripped, huge guy, and he's like, oh crap. And I saw that a lot when Gul'dan takes off his cloak, and he stands up, and he's like, I expected him to be like frailed and like withered away because he's been using this spell magic.
And that's always how he's been kind of perceived, except in the latest expansion, it kind of shows Gul'dan there.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Gul'dan dies, he kind of comes back. I don't want to get into that.
Fair enough.
But it showed him like that with the cloak with all the stuff coming out of his back.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that was really cool to see him not a total wiener.
Yeah. And it seems like in this whole ritual battle, you're not allowed to use magic.
Yeah. One thing I liked about the movie is like it didn't seem very war centered. Actually, I guess I should say did not like. It didn't seem as war centered as I like. They kept trying to fight. They kept trying to go for peace options and things like that. And as they said in like Chris Menzen, one of the heads up in Blizzard, he said it's World of Warcraft, not World of Pillow Fight Craft. Like there's going to be violence in this movie, and I felt like they kept trying to go for peace, and then like all the marketing posters was war is not the only option, and all this other stuff, and I felt like it was kind of a mixed message.
I can see that,
but
though I gotta admit, when it seems like there's a lot of time passes like through this movie as they're traveling or whatever, and the orcs are just raiding all these villages, and I just feel bad for the villagers.
And that's how it is in Warcraft 1.
It's like non-stop raiding.
When you saw when they showed like in Stormwind the castle where it showed that map with like all the like the elevated map with all the villages, that is literally in the first Warcraft. Because how it is like you have a map,
that's a nice Easter egg.
And when you play a level, the map raises up from like being paper to like 3D, and then you zoom in to that level.
Oh, that's cool.
And so that's why it was just seeing that map. It was like, oh, that's how it was in Warcraft 1. Nod. Yeah, and so that was pretty cool.
Okay.
Trying to think. What else? There was just so much that I felt was unexplained. Also, Dalaran is a floating city. That did not happen in Warcraft 1. Dalaran was originally in the ground, and then in Warcraft 3 it was destroyed by a demon. And what the demon did, because they opened up a gate and they let one demon through. His name is Archimond.
Okay.
And Archimond is just straight up BA. And so at the end of one of the campaigns, what he does is he talks about in like his weird demon tongue the errors of magic and how they thought they could control it. And then he's forming the city out of sand in front of him.
Okay.
And then what he does is he takes like a tower and he breaks off the small piece of the tower of the sand.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see over in Dalaran, the city, the actual part of the tower falls down.
Oh.
And then the next thing you see Archimond do is he grabs his hands and he just moves in and he just destroys like the whole sand.
Oh, that's creepy.
And then the city, and then it just goes black.
Oh, wow.
So it gets destroyed, and then it gets rebuilt, and then it goes up into the sky, and it flies to a place up north called Northrend, for another expansion.
Mm.
So it's pretty crazy.
It's brutal, man.
So it is very brutal. This is not a very happy game. People die, and so it's I think Blizzard knew Dalaran's supposed to not be flying yet. Why did they do this? And so I think they knew going in that was going to be a complaint. So that's
but
one of my.
It looks cool on the TV.
It did look very cool on the TV. Were there some things, Cam, that you were wondering that didn't make sense?
I'd say for me, a lot of the dialogue seemed a little bit rushed.
It did seem rushed.
The scene where mage guy
Khadgar
rocks into the floating city. They're like, "You get out of here! You left this! You renounced your vows!" Blah blah blah.
That was not a.
So he rushes in there.
That was a movie thing.
And he says, "We did. You
get out.
Yeah, get out." And it's like, "No," and they're like, "Okay,
not this time, brah." Yeah,
they pretty much. He mentions 2 words, and they just go right along with him, and they move to the next scene. It seemed a little bit rushed at that point. I'm like,
yeah,
like they're trying to lead up. To
I think they were just trying to get the story flowing a bit better.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the parts where I find a flaw in this movie is that the emotion is in the dialogue, but the actors aren't invested enough to portray the emotion. There was one of the scenes, I can't remember where it is, but Khadgar's talking to somebody, and it just seems like it's supposed to be like a heartbreaking moment, but he's just like, "But what do I do?"
Oh yeah, where he's talking to Medivh's mother.
Yeah.
Literally following that
Yeah.
that thing with Dalaran where he goes into that black box that's been there forever.
That's right.
Apparently. And he sees her, and then she says, I used all my strength to bring you here. But it's like, well, what do I do? It's like, heck, I already know what to do. And she even said that.
It seems like it's like supposed to be like a big, powerful moment, and the actor's just like, "What do I do?"
Yeah.
It kind of took away from the moment.
What do I do? What should I do?
And it also reminds, on the same note, back when Lothar's son dies. He's behind the wall. He watches his son. He's bashing on this electric wall to try to save his son before the orcs kill him. And the son dies. Spoiler.
Yeah.
And he kind of just stands there.
There's a lot of emotional detachment.
Yeah, he's like, he's your son. Cry out, curse the orc, do something aside from just stand there.
Shoot him the bird, man.
Yeah, do something. Yes, you can't get through it, but you can yell at him, get your frustration out. But
give him the finger.
Literally the only thing that we got out of that later on in the movie for emotional was he was laying on a table drunk.
Yeah.
And then he yells at the guardian.
He wasn't even really drunk, really. Let's be honest.
He was implied drunk.
He's
laying on a table with a goblet.
Yeah.
With a goblet dangling in his fingers, and
yeah,
he's implied drunk.
Implied drunk. He's PG-13 drunk.
Yeah, pretty much.
I guess.
Also, there was not very much blood.
Oh, I don't know. I thought there was. a decent amount. I think the brutality made up for the blood.
That's true.
I mean, there was literally a horse getting thrown into people.
Yeah. It was very brutal. Not very bloody, but holy crap, when an orc smashes a guy's face with a hammer.
It's pretty bad. Oh, one thing I did like, the gun, they call it the boomstick.
The boomstick.
Which is, they literally call them that in the game. Like, there are certain types of guns that, like, they call them guns, but there is a type of gun called the boomstick, which is shaped like that, and it's actually a two-handed weapon. And,
it makes sense. One-handed, you shoot that hand cannon and it'll break your arm.
yeah, and so, it was, I liked where Black Hand...
That was so cool.
He grabbed the front end of the gun.
He doesn't know what it is.
He didn't know what it is, and then they pull the trigger and it blows his hand clean off. Like, that was so epic and hilarious and wrong all at the same time.
Oh, it was actually very satisfying because all you've seen of the orcs so far was that they just mercilessly kill, and none of the orcs have died, and it's just a brutal slaughter of the people.
It's pretty epic.
Okay, one other thing I would mention about the fighting, it's with the orcs and the humans. It seems
one-sided.
It seemed one-sided in relation to the plot. If the story was going in like, the humans are attacking, yeah, they're gonna win, and like it shows like humans killing a lot of the orcs. And then something bad happens, and then the orcs are killing all the humans. And it just seems like a wave of like whatever
back and forth
of like whatever's handy to the plot, and then it like flips back over to the war, and it shows that side winning. And like, something good happens on the humans, and the humans beat back the orcs. Something bad happens to the humans, and the orcs beat back the humans.
So
and one
thing I really wanted to see, when at the end, when Medivh opens that portal to Stormwind,
yes,
I was personally hoping the orc army was going to run through
I
and
thought that as well.
destroy Stormwind. Because in the first one, they beat the crap out of that city. They beat the crap out of everyone. It gets so bad that everyone pretty much gets in boats and ships.
And runs away.
And they just run north like refugees.
Okay.
Like, they get their butt handed to them, which is
honestly
awesome.
That kind of surprised me at the end. Like, 4 of the 6 main characters die?
That's Warcraft.
It's
Game of Thrones.
It's like, holy crap!
And that's how it happens.
I mean, you can point out...
It happens a lot.
Yeah, like, it just kind of caught me off guard. Like, oh snap, like, the main orc dies in the fight.
Yeah,
spoilers.
we said at the beginning. So, like, Durotan dies in the fight.
He dies in the middle of the fight. I'm like, okay. I kind of expected him, if he was gonna die, die later, like near the end of the film. But no, there's still like half hour, 40 minutes left.
Yeah.
And they cut him out. Yeah. And a lot of the characters, like, it just surprised me with how nonchalantly they just took out the main characters.
And they did that a lot, until they got to World of Warcraft. And then they quit doing it as much, and it kind of destroyed things. For a while, it made them immortal.
Yeah,
it seemed like
it's a very effective storytelling thing where you have a main character get killed. It shows the threat level of the enemy is very strong. They are able to kill off main characters, and it's good storytelling.
Yeah, and so
it's just very rare to see that.
Yeah, and unless you're watching Game of Thrones, or Walking Dead.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, and so. They used to do that a lot, then they got to World of Warcraft and they quit doing it as much. Or they would take some of those main characters and turn them into raid bosses. And turn them evil, which wasn't a good idea.
And then you can kill them forever.
Yeah, and, some came
back. They died. Wait 15 minutes, they'll respawn.
And some of them came back after they died. So let's talk about ratings and, like, would we buy it type thing, and then we'll end the show.
Okay.
This isn't an At the Movie segment, but... Merlin, what would you rate this? Since you,
Hi, Merlin, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, since you,
He laughed once in the
he laughed
hour.
like once, he fell asleep. He looked at me with lots of looks of disappointment of, why did you bring me here?
He ate pizza.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's
how far in did you fall asleep?
Like, literally for the first half of the movie.
Oh.
Honestly, there wasn't a lot happening for a bit.
No, exactly. That's why.
So you watched the end where there's a big fight.
Oh yeah.
What did you think of the big fight?
Well, I already told you guys I was kind of thinking about Rick and Morty, like And Game of Thrones. I wasn't even really into the movie. I was.
Ken, what's your review?
Okay.
Do you do the stars or the
I
5 out of...
I do.
The one out of 10.
I do out of 10. Merlin does out of 5 stars. 4 stars? 4 stars. All right.
You would give it 4 stars?
No, I said out. I do the out of 4.
Does the
Out of 4 stars?
So Merlin, out of 4 stars, what would you give it?
Well, is
there a 4-star rating or is it 5-star rating?
5 stars is restaurants. 4 stars is for movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just remember 2 thumbs way up.
No, yeah, well, okay, even more. Anyways, no.
Hey, pig in the city.
You said 2 thumbs, nice. And so, I mean, it's biased against me because, like, it just didn't appeal to me, and I was bored, and I was lost. So it's...
Was this the worst movie you've seen all summer, Merlin?
Yes.
Merlin is
there we go.
Merlin is playing the role of the parent who gets dragged along by their 14-year-old son.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, 14-year-olds. Because that whole theater was filled with 14-year-olds.
Filled with nerds. It wasn't filled... I didn't see any 14-year-olds.
That's what I was joking.
No.
I'm saying
It was all like middle-aged people.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what the joke was implying.
That's probably where I fit.
And that woman who kept talking.
Yeah, there's a
the
lady next
whole
to me
movie.
who just... She was speaking Spanish. I have no idea what she was
still
saying.
mumbling, and I was 3 seats away from her. I could still.
She saw a baby. She's like, oh, cute.
I know. Then you go, oh.
And so then
oh,
people
that's
die.
really
She goes,
sad.
oh, no.
I was doing that,
I also
too.
don't know what she was saying. I don't speak Spanish. But, I don't know. For me...
You don't know, oh no.
Oh, no. Well, she's...
Anyway, all right, for you.
So, from my experience from this movie, it was kind of a rushed, unorganized disaster. I learned a whole lot more about the story from Mark here.
Nah.
And I honestly... I didn't get much out of I didn't understand the plot of the movie very much.
If you would have known some of this stuff, do you think it would have been better for you?
Probably, yeah.
Merlin's nodding his head.
There-
Merlin might have
able
stayed awake a little bit longer.
I was able to sympathize with main orc guy, Draenor.
Durotan. Draenor's the world they came from.
That's right. Too many names, man. Too many names. Durotan, I was able to sympathize with him. They made his character pretty good, and in the first little bit, there's a touching moment between him and his wife. And it
Draka.
Yeah, and it
Merlin's laughing so hard at this.
For lack of a better word, it humanized them. It made them relatable because they're talking about a baby. And it's just husband and wife banter, and I thought it was cute.
I gotta admit, I loved the relationship with Durotan and I want to say nearly everyone.
Yeah.
Because it was really playful, like him and him and Orgrim. They're like throwing rocks at each other.
There was one scene.
Idiots.
There's one scene where they're just sitting over the camp, and it's just like it cut in early from another scene, and it's just them sitting there, and the camera's slowly panning in, and Durotan, no, other guy,
Doomhammer, Orgrim.
Orgrim's just like sitting there next to
loser.
Durotan. He grabs a rock and looks over at it, and Durotan's not paying attention. He just beans him in the head with a rock. And he just like looks at him and. They look at each other and then they just bust up laughing. And it was fun having these interactions between the characters.
Because that's like the type of thing that happens like when you do things like that in video games. Like when Merlin and I would play Far Cry 4 together. Merlin, what were we always doing to each other?
We were flipping each other the bird.
We would flip each other off like every time.
Every
every time one of us would get into a car, we look at the other one, flip them off. We're like in the middle of a battle or something and we see each other. Flip each other
well,
off.
and then it's like
we would just always do things like that.
Well, it was even funny because like even if we didn't see each other flip each other off, it pops up in the corner and it says your partner flips you the bird. You know, it's just like, and you're like, what are you doing? Like,
and so it made like to me seeing that scene with Orgrim and Durotan, that reminded me a lot of the way Merlin and I play video games very stupidly, and we do things like that. Mm-hmm. Flip each other off.
And I kind of wish there was more interaction like that with the human character.
Yeah, the humans didn't seem very cool.
There was occasional slapstick humor. Like, there's one time, mage guy. Khadgar's on the ground and head of the army. Lothar goes to, he's on the ground, and Lothar goes to pick him up, and as Khadgar reaches his hand up, he's like, hey, no. He's like, oh, so he's got to pick himself up.
Yeah.
I liked little banter like that. It made him a little bit more practical, human, relatable. But the script and the words didn't... They were trying to express story and emotion.
It just didn't work.
It just didn't connect. The physical banter worked, but the emotions portrayed by the actors did not. And so for me, out of a rating of 10, I would give this somewhere around a 3.5 or 4.
Wow,
It's
that was higher than I thought you were gonna get.
It's a little bit brutal, but it's a little bit brutal of a rating. I did not like the story or interactions with the characters, but I did like the playful banter and the brutality of the fighting. That was pretty fun, and the lighting of the movie. But I wish there was more for the casual viewer to go see this. It seems like it was tailor made for the die-hard hardcore Warcraft fans, rather than just the common everyday moviegoer.
Noob.
That's me. Ask me about Pokemon and I can rattle on for hours. But that's my nerd guilty pleasure. But I just wish there was a little bit more for the casual fans. A little bit more explanation.
Yeah, what I've heard is,
but
Warcraft fans will love it. Casual people who don't know anything will not really enjoy it or get it. Mm-hmm. And I felt kind of bad like when I was seeing it like that. I felt really bad for Merlin. I still feel kind of bad. Like
I wasn't next to Merlin, so I didn't see what he was going. I was kind of just trying to follow the story, which I had to piece my own story together from the fragments they were giving us, and I kind of got it. I enjoyed the fights. I enjoyed the lighting. I enjoyed banter, but and
there's so much to take in.
Story and emotional attachment to the characters, or the humans at least, was not there, and I don't know. 3.5 to 4.
Merlin, you look like you got something to say.
Oh no, I was just gonna make a comment with Cam. Like he wasn't sitting next to me. I'm like, you didn't miss much. I was had my eyes closed.
He was out.
Yeah, I was like.
He laughed occasionally when I would look at him, and I would like smile really big, and he would be like, "Oh, jeez." So my rating, coming down to me. Would I buy it? Yes or no? Dun 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 dun. I will be buying it.
You will?
I will.
Okay.
It's only because I love Warcraft. And it's a movie my dad's probably gonna want to see. He's like, "What's this nerd thing you've been obsessed with all these years?" And then he's gonna see it and be like, "Wow, that movie kind of sucked."
What's up with all? I can't remember a single character's name. That's. Also, another thing.
It's hard.
It's hard to remember the characters' names.
And they tried to...
As I've been doing it in this review, I'm trying to, I just cast out what their
and they only see their names. They only see their names, once or twice, when they first meet them.
Yeah, and it's...
To me, it stuck because I played the games, I read the books, I know who is who.
Mm-hmm, but to me, it's like Middle-earth banter, I just... What?
Yeah. If this was me seeing Lord of the Rings, I'd be upset right now. I hate Nerd of the Rings so much. I'm just not a fan. But anyway, I will.
Gollum's pretty cool.
Sure. I will be buying this, but it's only because I love Warcraft. It's not because it's a great movie.
You're just emotional attachment to the series.
I'm just attached to the series, to be honest. This is where my nostalgia gets the best of me.
Yeah, understandable.
And so it was cool for me seeing Warcraft on a big screen. I still don't think video game movies make good movies.
Here's a question for you.
And I'm wondering about Assassin's Creed when that comes out, and we review that.
Yeah.
And also next week, guys, we'll be reviewing Angry Birds, right?
Angry
Birds next week. Just tune in.
Though here's a question for you. Do you think they'll make a sequel?
Yes.
You do?
Made $90 million in China.
It did?
Already, yeah. It's huge in China.
Yeah, I honestly don't know anything about the financial world of this. I do not know how much it made.
The financial world of Warcraft. It was huge in China. It was huge jumps in CGI. They're going to make another one. It'll take a few more years, but they're going to make another one.
So it's not going to follow down the path of The Last Airbender, Aragon.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure they're going to make another because here's the thing: WoW players,
Mario Brothers movie.
WoW players are pretty dedicated.
Mm.
They and even the casuals that quit, they still love the world. They still love the lore, and they still love the story. That's our show. It's all our World of Warcraft. We're going to see WoW in the World of Warcraft movie. And then next week we will be reviewing Angry Birds.
Angry Birds. Thanks for explaining stuff to me as well.
Yes.
It did help me out a lot.
Good to hear.
It may have helped somebody out there as well who was also confused about the lore.
Nice. And until next time, peace.